A prediction of unprecedented levels of economic growth for Antigua and Barbuda this year. Our top story in the first edition of Caribbean Newsline for 2018. It's Tuesday, January 2nd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. In a New Year's address to the nation, Prime Minister Gaston Brown predicted that economic growth this year will exceed 400 million EC dollars, or 10% of gross domestic product. He promised public and private sector investment and job creation. Some of that will come from the multi-million-dollar St. John's Port modernization project, which is scheduled to begin later this month.
The St. John's Port modernization project, worth $90 million is scheduled to start on January 15. This project will be the single largest public sector investment undertaken by any government, past or present, and will facilitate the transformation of the facility into a regional transshipment port. A further $80 million will be invested in 2018 to construct a fifth tourism berth at Point Wharf to accommodate the Oasis-class ships in time for the next cruise tourism season. My government will invest $250 million to repair and expand the road network throughout Antigua and Barbuda in 2018. Presently, we're investing $50 million to build a new airport runway on Barbuda, which will be completed by September of 2018.
Barbuda was devastated when Hurricane Irma, a Category 5 storm, smashed into the tiny island last September, forcing the evacuation of all the inhabitants after the government deemed the place uninhabitable. What Prime Minister Brown said was the commencement of construction work there, residents stand to benefit greatly.
Barbuda will also benefit from a further $125 million to assist with the rebuilding of homes, public institutions and infrastructure, as well as a green energy solar voltaic plant. The latter will make Barbuda the first totally green island in the Caribbean.
St. Lucia's opposition leader is warning of a constitutional crisis because of the non-appointment of his successor to Dame Pearlette Louise, who stepped down as Governor General at the end of last year. Dame Pearlette, who was the island's longest-serving head of state, announced late last year that she was leaving office amid much speculation that she had been forced out of office by the Alan Chasney administration. Leader of the main opposition St. Lucia Labour Party, Philip J. Pear, says not having a replacement or someone acting in the position is a big problem. He contended that the Deputy Governor General cannot perform the function of Governor General unless there is a Governor General in position in the first place. He also says the current state of affairs means that Prime Minister Chasney cannot travel overseas since an acting Prime Minister would have to be appointed, and there is currently no head of state to make any such appointment. The opposition leader argued that if the government had paid attention to the process by which a new Governor General is appointed, the transition from Dame Pearlette to a successor would have been much different. Authorities in the Bahamas have detained almost 80 Haitians after intercepting a boat between the archipelago and Cuba over the long holiday weekend. On Sunday, the Bahamian Navy intercepted the 40-foot vessel with 76 illegal Haitian migrants just days after another vessel with 87 Haitians on board was stopped in its tracks. The Royal Defense Force said the migrants were handed over to the immigration authorities for possible repatriation. Despite the announcement by the Bahamian government that effective yesterday, all foreigners who do not possess a residence permit will be expelled, many Haitians continue to risk their lives on fragile vessels to go to the Bahamas seeking employment. The International Organization for Migration has reported that there were nearly 70,000 Haitians in the Bahamas in 2014, including about 50,000 who did not have residency permits. Staying in Nassau, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says 2018 will usher in a new business focus for the Bahamas. A skills bank will be set up to identify Bahamians living abroad and their areas of expertise. Minnis says this is an attempt to make it easier to do business in his country. More in this report from Clint Watson of ZNS Network News.
Payments throughout the USA and the world are being sought after by the government to fill roles as investors, consultants, and employees. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Hubert Minnis confirmed this move following a recent trip to Washington. The Prime Minister says to facilitate this, they are establishing a skills bank which will be headed as a separate council, headed by Consul General Theo Neely.
Together, a skills bank. That council, I've asked Mr. Theo Neely, who is the Consul General in Washington, to head such council. Each embassy would have a responsibility to produce that data, that skills bank data. Theo Neely and his Washington group would be the central core, but each would hold that information independently so that we know what are the skills, the Bahamian skills we have out there throughout the world.
Dr. Minnis further explained that all investors will have to come through his office, and at that point, they can pull from the data bank.
With just 2 days into the new year, Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica have recovered 5 murders each. In Port of Spain, retired police officer John Ramkisoon was among 5 murder victims on the first day of 2018. Police say he was drinking with friends when he was involved in an argument with a man who left and returned with a cutlass, chopping the former police officer about the body. He died at the scene. The other 4 victims were killed by the gun. Over in Jamaica, police said the murders occurred in Clarendon, St. Anne and Westmoreland, Kingston and St. Andrew. The first victim was stabbed to death. The other 4 were shot dead in separate incidents. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he will lead a national campaign against all forms of violence this year. His announcement on Monday came on the heels of the country recording more than 1,500 murders in 2017. In his New Year's message, Holness said more must be done in 2018 to protect women and children from violence and aggression. He said the acceptance of violence as a means of resolving conflict has taken away from the image that Jamaicans are good-natured, loving and hospitable people. And he said the increasing level of violence is threatening civility and sensibilities and introducing a crassness which undervalues life. The Jamaican leader has therefore called for a return to the peaceful, loving, happy, prosperous and progressive Jamaica. Prime Minister Holness also indicated that this year authorities will scale up the zones of special operations to reclaim communities that have been captured by criminals.
We continue our resolve to make Jamaica safe and secure. Zones of special operations have shown Jamaicans that our security forces can police communities and control crime in localities without abusing citizens' rights. We have now created a framework for the whole of government response to citizen security. 2018 must be the year when we scale up the zones of special operations to reclaim communities that have been captured by criminals. The Jamaica Constabulary Force is our lead crime-fighting institution. Last year, it celebrated its 150th anniversary. Given the current crime situation, it is without question that the JCF needs critical institutional reform to be able to effectively lead the fight against crime. This year, the government intends to table new legislation to define a transformed police service. This new legislation will replace the current JCF Act and focus, among other things, on preserving the integrity of the men and women who serve, to ensure that corruption within the ranks of the police services does not compromise the ability of the force to fight crime.
1 week before the end of 2017, the island had recorded a 21% increase in murders. That's 1,581 killings up to that point, which was 257 more than the corresponding period in 2016. Meantime, Prime Minister Hollis has reportedly agreed to meet with the Central Executive of the Police Federation over the current wage dispute sometime this week. The Federation had written to Holness 2 weeks ago seeking his intervention after wage talks with the Ministry of Finance collapse. They have rejected the government's offer of a 6% pay increase over 2 years. The breakdown in talks led to a mass sick-out by rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Nearly 3,000 police personnel called in sick. Holness appealed to trade unions to approach the negotiations with the best interests of both sides in mind.
Jamaica has come a far way in enlightened labor relations, and I'm sure that in the current wage negotiations, common ground can be reached. Bearing in mind the bigger picture, that wages are connected to productivity, government can only pay more if it collects more in taxes, and we cannot borrow infinitely. Our economic state is still very fragile, and any unreasonable action by any stakeholder can derail our economic growth. As Prime Minister, I'm very sensitive to the conditions of the public sector workers, and I know the sacrifice you continue to make. There is a brighter future ahead for all of us if we all help to balance Jamaica. I take this opportunity to appeal to reason and the common good as we seek to settle wage negotiations.
Coming up in Caribbean Newsline, Trinidad and Tobago's nurses want a better deal in 2018 as far as employment and security are concerned. That story and more after the break.
Grow your business or promote your event through the services offered by the Caribbean Media Corporation and Carib Vision. Our distribution provides a platform on cable, terrestrial television, and websites. We cover carnivals and events from across the region. We can bring your event live and alive to the world. For music makers, program producers, businesses, we can expand your reach to in excess of 2 million households daily. Our other services include news updates to enhance your media products, studio space for program and development. We can facilitate the launch of new products and services and training. Contact us and we will help you unleash your creative ability, develop products and services, and provide the medium to watch them grow. Contact Loretta Skeet at cmccaribbean.com or call her 1-246-467-1044 or 1-246-253-3889. Call and book your carnival or event today.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
Today we're here on the case of Amanda Keelis. And she worked at a company, a restaurant, that I think it was in Oakland, right? Called Koji Japan, Inc.?
She worked at Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yeah, and then the other site of the restaurant was in Orange County, Southern California.
Okay. And it was a sushi type Japanese restaurant.
Right.
What happened?
Well, Amanda was on her feet, long hours, working as a server, and they just were never giving her breaks.
Nurses in Trinidad and Tobago are asking for a better deal and more jobs in 2018. President of the Trinidad and Tobago Registered Nurses Association, that's Edie Stewart, says nurses have not been given priority for employment.
Why are you training a number of nurses? Over 300 nurses are passing out every year. Training them, giving them the impression that a job will be after 4 years of training and acquiring a bachelor's. You expect them to be employed like police, prisons, fire, teachers. Once they go through training, they expect to be employed. Otherwise, they won't even go through this training. After that, you have them home in excess of a year. We have over 200 nurses sitting home after being trained by the government and not practicing their trade.
The association president also called for more to be done to ensure the safety of nurses who work late hours.
Well, the RHA provides no transport for nurses to get home or to get the closest centralized town or spot like that. They provide none of that. So some of these health centers, which open late in the evening, the extended hours that the ministers would have championed and say are working, after 10 o'clock, after 8 o'clock, nurses have to find their way home. And those who don't have cars have to face public transport and have been attacked on an ongoing basis.
Staying in the Twin Island Republic, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has requested a meeting with opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar to discuss the nomination of a successor to President Anthony Carmona, who is scheduled to leave office in March at the end of his 5-year term in office. A brief statement from the office of the Prime Minister on Tuesday said Rowley had suggested that the meeting be held on Friday. There had been speculation in the local media that the 82-year-old former head of the public service, Reginald Dumas, was one of two candidates the main opposition United National Congress wanted to put forward when the Electoral College meets on January 19 to elect Carmona's successor. But Dumas, also a former special advisor to the United Nations Secretary General on Haiti, has ruled himself out of contention, saying he's not a candidate for the presidency and he has no intention whatsoever of being or even seeking to be a candidate. Media reports had also indicated that apart from Dumas, the opposition UNC is also considering retired High Court Judge Gladys Gafour, while the ruling People's National Movement is said to be considering retired Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Rolston Nelson. Over in the Bahamas, an Anglican priest has apologized for statements he made about how women dress, admitting that his words could very well be seen as victim blaming. Archdeacon James Palacios says while he stands by what was reported from interviews he did with two media houses, he could have said more to balance his statement and position in a controversial advisory on Facebook last week. Ahead of the John Canoe Carnival, the Royal Bahamas Police Force advised that if women dress appropriately, that would take away the chance of them being groped or touched in an appropriate manner. Father Palacios defended the police force's decision to exhort people on how to dress to ward off unwanted attention. In his apology, he said his statements should have emphasized more the need for men to restrain themselves and not grope females. He stressed that such behavior is criminal and police warn and the police warning should also have emphasized that rather than just refer to the way women are dressed. The priest said, quote, "Because this emphasis was missing from my original discourse, there is good reason for me to be accused of blaming the victim. And for that, the idea that the victim is anyway responsible, I apologize." End quote. And Father Palacios added that the conversation should move from a focus on women's clothing to the way people treat and respect women and each other at large, and men must be taught proper respect and appreciation for women. And ahead in Newsline Sport, rain wrecks any hope the West Indies had of winning the 3-match T20 series against New Zealand. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
What's the future? I mean, you talk about 4 futures. The folks over at the Atlantic magazine who quoted you not so long ago talked about, I think it was 3 futures. What are the possible options that we're facing as far as you're concerned?
I think, so 4 futures, that spins out from a couple of different dimensions. So I'm sort of starting from the standpoint, as I've sort of just said, that it's, suppose this possible for us to automate.
You don't know. You go be my number 1. You don't know. I'm not gonna make you number 2. You don't know. Fit to chop my money when you want to. That's all I gotta say to you. We only need one. Given that opportunity, me I go make.
Any hopes of West Indies entertained of rebounding to win their 3-match T20 series against New Zealand were dashed when rain wiped out the second match on New Year's Day. The adverse weather, which had forced a 20-minute delay to the start of the match, returned after 9 overs with New Zealand on 102 for 4, ending play prematurely at the contest at Bay Oval. In the play possible before the rains arrived, opener Colin Monroe stole the show with a pulsating 66 of 23 deliveries, following up his 53 in the first game. Monroe then ripped into captain Carlos Brathwaite in the 5th over, smashing a 6 and 3/4s in the medium pacer's solitary over, which went for 21. With the disappointment, the Windies will now head into the final game on Wednesday at the same venue, needing a win in order to avoid another series defeat. They trail by 1 following a 47-run defeat in the opener in Nelson last Friday. Staying with cricket, a top Trinidad and Tobago batsman is hoping selectors will look his way when the Red Force team reassembles for round 8 of the regional 4-day competition. TNT are set to take on Leeward Islands Hurricanes at the Queen's Park Oval. In this report from TV6's Vanud Nawani, we hear that the veteran cricketer Imran Khan wants to make his mark in the first-class competition in a bid to impress selectors for the West Indies team.
Trinidad and Tobago's cricketers, like those from the other Caribbean islands, are on a break and return to 4-day action on Thursday. All-rounder Imran Khan has had a good 4-day season with the ball, taking 36 wickets so far, while he admits he needs to get more runs after scoring 1 half-century. Khan is also hoping to make the TNT Regional Super 50 squad with the tournament starting in late January.
Yeah, it's always good to play 1-day cricket for Trinidad. Been last tournament, I had a pretty good tournament for Red Force. A lot of hard work I've been doing, more physical work, batting, bowling as well. So it's about, performing when the time comes and hopefully get selected.
Despite the fact that TNT had unpredictable performances at 4-day level, Khan is not worried that it would affect the players going into the limited overs format. The 33-year-old believes that Team Red Force can shine in the Super 50.
Yeah, I think, it wasn't a great 4-day tournament to finish on a losing note, but I think, the guys are there, the team chemistry is there and stuff like that, it's the things that they can't control. So I think going to this format, I think majority of the guys, like the shorter version of the game, and they more look forward to it. So I think it will be a very interesting tournament, and hopefully some of the senior guys will be back as well. So I think going to this format, I think we'll have a really good chance at.
Khan has 356 first-class wickets and 28 from as many limited overs matches, with a decent economy rate of 4.89. As such, he has aspirations of wearing the senior maroon colours one day.
Yeah, I think it's always a good dream to play for West Indies cricket, I think I still want to play for West Indies. Yeah, a lot of hard work has been put in batting, bowling, fielding as well. It's all about being consistent and performing at the end of the day, and leave it up to the selectors.
Switching sports, but staying with sporting developments in the Twin Island Republic, the under-20 women's head coach Jamal Shabazz is rallying his troops to earn their spot in the World Cup in France this year. Trinidad and Tobago, which currently lies 8th in the Caribbean Football Union standings, will open their World Cup campaign against Haiti at the CONCACAF Under-20 Championships to be held at the Ato Bolian Stadium from January 18th to the 28th. Shabazz is also hoping the public will come out and ensure that the girls secure their place in the finals.
Coach Jamal Shabazz is taking a pragmatic approach to TNT's chances ahead of the CONCACAF Under-20 Women's Championship. The veteran coach acknowledges that TNT haven't had the ideal competition ahead of the tournament, but are ready to make it tough on their opponents.
Women's football in particular, people give the 3 points to USA, they give the 3 points to Canada, they give the 3 points to Mexico, and now Costa Rica. And we're saying with our preparations that these people have got to work for the points with us. Of course, we would like to have friendly internationals outside of the senior women's team against countries. The funding is not there for that, but we're saying that we're preparing with limited resources, with a big heart, and where we lack in resources, we want to make up with effort and attitude. And I think the teams that's going to come here, we want them to work for the points, because by God, by Allah, wallahi, we are also going to work for our points.
Looking at the bigger picture, Shabazz also sees TNT's hosting of the championship as a test of our readiness.
The authorities in CONCACAF have given us that opportunity to host this tournament. This is a big tournament. It qualifies 3 teams to the Under-20 Women's World Cup. And I think that it's a golden opportunity for the public of Trinidad and Tobago to come out and support women's football, support women's athletes, and support the country generally, If we produce the crowds and not just a presence, but a passionate presence, by the people, and a participative one, I think that this will be good in terms of us hosting future tournaments.
And that's for sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Again, the major developments of this day: Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brummer anticipates unprecedented levels of economic growth in 2018. And in sport, the second match in the 3-match T20 series between West Indies and New Zealand washed out, dashing the Caribbean side's hopes of a comeback win. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport round the clock, log on to cornernews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.